as we join our television broadcast. With me this morning is a goodly gentleman. As we said earlier, on Wednesdays it's usually NDC or the government's day, and this morning I'm joined by the Public Relations Officer for the National Democratic Congress and also the Parliamentary Representative for the constituency of St. George North East, the Honorable Ron Redhead. Good morning, man. How are you doing?
Good morning, sir. Not too bad. Good morning to you. Good morning to the staff at GBN, Greener Broadcasting Network, and also good morning to all listeners, viewers, both at home and in the diaspora.
Well, today happens to be the Prime Minister's birthday.
Yes, it is.
I'm surprised that you're here. I thought the party should have started already.
Yes. Well, some people are very humble and they celebrate in many different ways, but we would certainly like to say, on behalf of all of us, the National Executive Council and members, supporters of the National Democratic Congress and the entire Grenada, wish Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister, a very special birthday greetings today. He is out on state business with the Sagassam Conference and in Brussels, and we expect him back sometime later on during the month, and he's out hard at work trying to ensure that we muster up the resources to build Grenada, and we wish him all the very best on his special day today.
All right. Well, you're a bit late, except you called him personally because I said it openly on air. Happy birthday to the big man. I think he's celebrating his 21st birthday.
Yes, he looks young, but he would quickly say he's not so young.
Okay. All right, now let's get into it. From MP Ron Redhead's perspective, how is your constituency going?
My constituency is going well. I think we have some still concerns with one of the major road project that is in Willis, but by and large the constituency continues on an upward trajectory. We are confident that we are doing what is necessary to build both people and the infrastructure and generally the constituency in terms of fulfilling the mandate that was given in 2022 to make it a very stable, progressive constituency.
And in your interaction with your constituents, what is the main cry? I'm trying to mirror my questioning because yesterday I had a gentleman, Mr. Diali from the opposing side, and those are this. So I'm trying to be as across the board. What's the main concern that you're hearing from your constituents?
Well, I think the main concern is to maintain the relationship with the people. By and large, we do have concerns, but one of the things I try to impart upon all of my constituents is that we need to, learn to be creative, innovative, overcome challenges, notwithstanding that you have difficulties. You must not spend your time complaining about it. People who complain do not achieve anything in life. Yeah. And so that's a message and mentality I continue to spread and share whenever I assist. We assist in many different ways. Yes, there are concerns. You have challenges from an economic standpoint. You have social challenges. And just the question of the inability to move forward in life generally. People go through that struggle now and again. And this has nothing to do with the government. But in terms of just the personal decisions, responsibility, that sort of thing. But by and large, I continue to engage people. And if you ask me, notwithstanding that we may have some concerns which dated as far back as when Grenada gained independence, generally, by and large, we continue to thrive as a constituency.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. And your personal perspective, what's your take on what's happening nationally in the country here? Because you hear talks and one side saying, okay, nothing was done since the revolution or since independence, and then another side saying is nothing was done for 23 years and so forth. What's the NDC's take on how is the country progressing?
No, we're progressing nicely, apart from the challenges which we cannot avoid. You had the passage of Hurricane Beryl, you have the international situation, and I dare say now we have a regional situation, as you are fully aware of the situation going on. And apart from that, I think by and large the government remains steady. We can report, for example, that this is the first time Grenada has experienced single-digit unemployment rates. We are waiting for the final tally and confirmation. This augurs well in terms of our own ability as a country to move forward. It says that we have the capacity to work and to solve and resolve our problems, and we must continue to believe in our people, our Grenadians, both home and in the diaspora, to make a difference and to improve the quality of life that people experience. And by and large, from a budget standpoint, for example, remain on target. In fact, this is the first time Grenada has been able to spend over or thereabout $300 million in capital projects. So the rate of spending is extremely high. And this augurs well, because if you drive around the country, you see the most amount of construction ongoing presently in Grenada today. People do have employment opportunities, albeit in some instances things still do move a little slower than it normally should. But we are confident that the economy is on the right track, notwithstanding the challenges that are largely external because of how Small Island develops. But in terms of our own resolve, so one of the things that we have been able to do is to projectize some of the sectors in addition to tourism and construction. And I'll give you just two examples. You have education, you have health. Right? So as it relates to education, in terms of projectizing it, we are introducing centers of excellence. This is to look at the layer of education that deals specific with skills training, because at least in the next, you could say 20 years, the ability for you to earn a decent living is not going to come by people who just study business degrees, among others, but it is going to come by people who are industrious, innovative, and have that skill to be able to make, we call it pankwai, but in more industrialized countries, that is actually a very lucrative job, and you could be able to earn a great deal, take care of yourself and family, and improve your quality of life and improve the country to which you live in. The other sector is health. And we are confident that the Project Polaris, which is going to be one of the single biggest undertaking from a capital side in terms of spending, $250 million is projected to be spent there. That we are going to turn sword as early as next year. And our belief is that if we continue on that trend, and there are other areas, you have agriculture that we are projectizing and ensuring that, let's say from a standpoint of the import and export situation, the balance of trade, we are doing things there to get IMEXA, which is to come up and running, coming from the failures of Marketing Board in the past. And this is consistent with what we have campaigned on. We said that when we came in, there are things that more than likely is working for Grenadians. We are not interested in the petty partisan arguments, and we will keep those elements that are not working. We are going to transform, we are going to enhance, we are going to change and improve as we go along. And so we are doing just that. So I am confident by looking, observing, and one seeing the facts that present us, right direct in our face, that things are moving in the right direction. Is it fast enough? I would hasten to add no, because we could never be too satisfied. All right, and so when you look at the government of Grenada, the agenda is not to want to sit on our laurels and complain about the very problems that we are going through, but it is to attempt to do something about it. And I think that's what we need to continue to do. This is just 3 years in, and we have been met with a number of challenges, and we have not stopped to complain about those challenges in one point, but take on each task and try to overcome and improve it.
You touched on health and Project Polaris, as you said, there should be a sword turning as early as next year.
Yeah.
But even before that, there are some concerns because there are talks of statutorization of the health sector.
Right.
And we have the unions not very comfortable. As a matter of fact, it is said that no statutorization before regularization. How does the government intend to deal with that, with the regularizing of the health staff?
Yeah, no, well, it's a legitimate legitimate concern on the part of the unions. We are not looking at it in isolation. The move and shift to statutarize the General Hospital in particular is not coming on some knee-jerk reaction. This is something that is being well planned, well thought out. The government has announced a management committee to transition from the present situation into the statutorized body of the General Hospital, and I would just ask the unions to work with government. There are discussions presently ongoing. We are not maybe at the stage where we would like to talk staff just yet, but we are looking at this from a holistic standpoint, and therefore the ultimate goal is about improving healthcare and the delivery of healthcare in Grenada. And so we are confident with our track record that we would look after the workers. We are confident that we believe in the working people, and therefore would not engage in something to threaten the lives and livelihoods of any working person in the related sector. But they can rest assured that we are working to ensure that we cross all T's, dot all I's, and then certainly once everything is firmed up, I am confident you would be engaged in the most appropriate time. This is not going to be something, as I mentioned, that is knee-jerk. It's going to be well planned, well thought out, and we ask for your understanding. We ask ultimately for your cooperation, and we ask for your goodwill in continuing to defend the rights of workers throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique.
And as it relates to the statutorization of the hospital services, any considerations being given to outside outside persons, entities from outside, because we know a lot of emphasis is placed on that entity in the US that is providing consultation and so forth. I can't remember the name of my head now.
Yeah, Mount Sinai.
Mount Sinai, that's correct. Any considerations given to extending to outside of Grenada in terms of the statutarization management aspect?
Well, it's a conversation that is ongoing. I may not be the best person to give you the specific detail. You have project sponsor Miss Andrea Senbernard, who in the most appropriate time, once she's available, would be able to give a firm response and have a conversation with GBN or any other media entity on the matter. She was on the MTV's program recently, the other evening, and I'm certain that once she's available, she'll be able to comment on the specifics. But I would say that currently the Ministry of Health, the Government of Grenada, through the partnership with Mount Sinai, is completing a number of reviews. Out of that, we are seeing several improvements just on the whole question of the structure at the General Hospital to be able to deliver the healthcare, which augurs well. The second thing is that these assessments are determining that all these kinds of separate arrangements and so on that is making up the health sector is not appropriate, and therefore it is contributing to the inefficiency of the delivery of service by way of communication between staff to say, well, when one person is going and clocks out, that sort of thing, how that information is channeled down so that the flow and the functioning of healthcare is maintained throughout, so that you don't have a gap where somebody is clocking out and going, and then when somebody else comes, some total different new idea comes up, and how they would treat patient X is a stark difference from how they would treat patient Y, because they don't have the information and so on, or it was not transferred to say, well, this person just vomit, for example, and we shouldn't be able to give them anything for the next 24 hours, just some simple things. So that assessment is ongoing, and it is yielding some critical results. In the budget on December 1st, you're going to hear some pronouncements, at least discussions through the budget debates post the 1st, where the Ministry of Health is implementing some key reforms that is going to be able to help the General Hospital, in a sense, serve the patients of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique a bit more efficient and diligently. So that is ongoing. There is the arrangement, for example, that has the nursing school was shut down. That is going to return. We are actively looking at the situation with Grand Case, whether or not it is feasible, and why are we not just employing the people through the Ministry of Health in the first instance and cutting out this question of the middleman, so to speak, to have this separate entity which is not doing any significant staff development and training, but is being asked to contribute to the general hospital in a direct way, right? This was created by the former administration, so to speak, to hide the numbers to the IMF, to still employ people, but do it through this quasi-agency that was taking people and putting them in the general hospital. That is a cause for concern. You see, sometimes you just need to have honest conversations, by and large, with multinational corporations and financial institutions on where you want to go. The issue of health is something that I thought was non-negotiable. And notwithstanding that we have to pay back debts, among other things, I think that we should have done a better job in ensuring that the hospital, general hospital, was properly staffed, coming out from the IMF 3-year reform that took place with our fiscal situation. But nonetheless, I think we're now at a position where we can be able to roll out or implement some measures or reforms going forward next year. And again, the most appropriate individuals would speak on the matter when time comes for the details, but I can tell people they can rest assured the government is actively working to improve the situation at the general hospital. We are not satisfied with it, and I know vast majority of Grenadians who are not, and so being elected, that is part of our mandate, and we are working feverishly to resolve this.
I'm happy that we, engaging that conversation on health, because there is a school of thought that, okay, Project Polaris, yes, a big, nice project for Grenada, but there is that school of thought that is thinking that if some of that money that is being pumped into Project Polaris is used to upgrade the community health services, all right, it reduces the reliance on the general hospital and the flow. So maybe there might not even be need for that other big project. But the how do we refer to them? The community health,
the medical stations.
Yes.
So yes. Remember, you could recall the government has announced through the Ministry of Health that it is actively engaged in the upgrade of medical stations throughout. There was a visit which Honorable Prime Minister, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of MIT, among other cabinet colleagues, visited some of the medical stations to ascertain, see firsthand. So, for example, in St. Patrick, a visit was held there, and the necessary reports coming out from the Ministry of Infrastructure, that certainly was compiled and is handed over, and work is expected to commence. Now, I can speak of my constituency. The Willis Medical Station is down for an upgrade. The goal ultimately, from my vantage point, is to ensure that we improve the question of the community health centers. You could recall that when we came into office, one of the first medical stations that was upgraded, or at least enhanced, was the Good Hope Medical Station. When I was campaigning during the last election, I saw the state of the Good Hope Medical Station. Babies were being wet when they would go on the scale to weigh, and so on. So we couldn't have that. And so I worked with the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Ministry of Health then to be able to get that renovated. The renovation was successful and the improvement took place. And so the government has continued along that trend. St. Medical stations in St. David, among other areas, were also upgraded subsequently. And so we believe, just as you have outlined, that if you improve the community, or I would say district medical stations, you are going to get a much better situation or picture at a general hospital. But the goal of the new teaching hospital is not just limited to Grenada. We see ourselves as the potential to be the hub for medical tourism in the Caribbean. And so it is about building out that capacity in addition to ensuring that we improve the delivery of service and the quality of service that we get currently with our health system. It is not a simple conversation to accept, to say, take that money and just improve the community medical stations, because that is actively being done on one hand, but you also need to think about the future. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to go? How does Grenada fit into the whole concept of we can't just rely on the tourism that deals with room stock? We have to think beyond it. So you have sports tourism, and we are now introducing medical tourism. We are confident that having purchased the property on behalf of Grenadians, that we can commence in earnest next year. This is a goal, this is a dream, this is something we believe must be achieved if we are to realize our full potential, in addition to whatever else may come, such as oil and gas, among other opportunities.
Okay, I'm glad you touched that. It leaves us at this point where we will take a commercial break, and when we come back, we touch on the oil and gas and agriculture. And folks, it's to the point. I'm speaking with MP Ron Redhead, the Public Relations Officer for the National Democratic Congress, and also the Parliamentary Representative for the constituency of St. George East. Northeast, rather. We take a commercial break. We'll be back after this. This is To the Point.
Let's celebrate the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert on Sunday, November 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center with the best of Grenada, along with the Black Prince and the Pink Panther. Our partners, Hubbard's, GBN, Grenada Paper Products, Grenada Distillers Limited, makers of Clacks Court, Grenada's #1 rum, Brentville Credit Union, Bryden and Miners, Agents 4, Johnny Walker, Smyrna Vodka, and Campari, Renwick Thompson and Company Limited, Pierre Marcel, Hard On Plus, Gittins Healthcare, Dollar Savers Auto Parts, Rise and Shine Supermarket, Springs Food Mart, Excel Plaza, Clem Vision Eye Center, Chillaxing Cafe, Answer Coating, Victory Bar, Blue Bubba's PA Rental and Events Supply, Chateau de la Motte, Grenada, Captain Harris Apartments, Gem Holiday, Beach Resorts, Dana's City Inn, Glen Egg, Spring Water, and the Grenada Trade Center. Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center, the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert. Please be seated by 4 p.m. Hubbard's Legends in Concert. Grenadians, get ready to commemorate National Heroes Day on Sunday, October 19th at the former Riviera Hotel site next to Camahorn Park. Grand Dance from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. The theme for this year's commemoration, honoring our legacy, inspiring our future. This National Heroes Day commemoration promises to be one to remember, with a prayer and worship segment, the spoken word, and a powerful message from our special guest speaker. National Heroes Day Commemoration 2025 will also see the official sword turning on the grounds of the Riviera site, which will then be known as National Heroes and Heritage Park. Sunday, October 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. National Heroes Day Commemoration, Monrouge, St. George. See you there.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. This is To the Point, and my guest this morning is the Honorable Ron Redhead, Public Relations Officer, and also Member of Parliament for St. George Northeast. And we had a nice conversation on health. I want us to Another great talking point at the moment is the oil and gas. Grenada is looking at the exploits of what's happening in Guyana, and we're saying we wish we have that too. If Guyana has it, we should have it too, so that the populace could benefit more. What is Grenada's position as it relates to oil and gas? I know we had Nazim Burke and H.A. something. I can't remember the specialists. I read him in the news this morning.
Right.
And there are some prospects. What's the real case with this?
Right. Well, we have a town hall meeting tomorrow, God's willing. We are encouraging all Grenadians to tune in, turn out, and to listen, be a part of the conversation, and to get first-hand information on what we have discovered thus far. Now, so far, since the last town hall meeting where we discussed it in terms of our interest and the Honorable Prime Minister's support to go forward in terms of getting at least some credible information as to how we proceed, we have been able to ascertain some information, official information. A release was put out where dated sometime earlier on this year. The technical working group headed by Grenadian Attorney at Law, Mr. Nazim Burke, was in receipt of that information. Secondly, we have visited the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, to which discussions were held there about the prospects and what may exist. So I am encouraging each and every one of us to turn out tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Trade Center, and to listen the discussion and the discourse, to get the update firsthand and to see how we move this particular sector forward. It is going to have implications for us, and so we could think down the line in terms of the potential of reducing the energy costs. One of the challenges that I honestly saw, even when I was in the Senate many years ago, is that the lack thereof of the involvement of Grenadians in that prospect was something of tremendous concern. And it says to me that in truth and in fact, if we do want to reduce the cost of energy, as I think any genuine Grenadian would, they would have done a better job in ensuring that they bring this information to the public's attention and do it in a manner where you get Grenadians involved, so that whether or not we have or we didn't have, or whatever we have, that could have been exploited to the advantage and benefit of Grenadians. And so we are merely attempting to right the wrong of the past and to ensure that this is going to be done in a transparent fashion, and that no one individual or group would be able to hijack the resources of the state. We are willing to work with Grenadians and to discuss with them on our potential, and this is why we have another update for the public. It's a national update, and it will be held at Trade Center at 6 p.m. tomorrow, God's will.
Are you optimistic that we do have oil and gas reserves?
I'm very optimistic. In fact, I wouldn't want to preempt. What I would say is turn out, you listen. But I'm optimistic that the right thing is being done right now as it relates to the potential for any exploits to be had from it. I think we need to remain focused and do not engage in counting the chickens before they hatch. That's one important lesson. And also do it in a manner and fashion where the public is informed and we can collectively make a decision, because this is going to be big, whatever the prospects may be. Okay.
Another area of concern individually, and it should be reflecting on the government as well. I notice a lot of initiatives, a lot of energies are being pushed in that direction now. Cybersecurity. Right. Is the government concerned about that?
Yes, very much so. There's this whole idea that the threats of the world are not necessarily going to come through the bombs and the guns and so on as we proceed, but they can come in the form of technology. And in particular, the question of improving our capacity from a regional standpoint to be able to ward off cyber attacks is something that we have singled out. And Honorable Prime Minister is currently engaged in ensuring that we bolster Grenada's capacity to do just that. Now, if we are talking about making things a bit more efficient and digitizing majority of our services, it is going to come to a point where the security of those services, if left unattended to, is going to become a threat for Grenadians to move forward in a modern era or a modern environment. As you could recall, many moons ago, you couldn't pay much of your government, whether taxes, etc., online, right? Over the many years, this has been a transitionary period, and so we are exploiting that potential and opportunity right now. However, it comes with some downsides or risks, and so because it comes with those risks, the government is now actively researching, learning, and implementing policies with the necessary efficacy that could improve the standard and quality of security measures that can protect Grenada's hard-earned cash. So I'll give you just one example. In Jamaica, I think either sometime last year or earlier on this year, Usain Bolt suffered one of those breaches where all of his monies, etc., was vacuumed out, etc., through a breach in the cybersecurity. Now, this is important because it says one of two things: that yes, implementing the policy is one from a government standpoint, but ensuring that Grenadians, or at least in that instance Jamaicans, were trained with the skill to be able to maybe even avert it, is something that we have to constantly engage in. Breaches do occur from financial institutions to maybe even people's medical records, etc. These things are becoming too common, and because it's becoming common in the world, we see our responsibility in the Caribbean as necessary to bolster our capacity to prevent instances of that.
Yeah, we need to get on board, and I think as a people's own intuition has to kick in. People have to kick in.
But just recently, just to add, we have graduated a number of Grenadians out of a cybersecurity, that initial course from a Bajan company, Bajan and Canadian company recently. And so we are satisfied that we are going to continue on that trend. In fact, the performance was generally excellent. Mr. Jervis Dabrio may be better equipped with the knowledge to give you a response in terms of the quantum, the numbers, etc. But definitely we need to take it a lot more serious. Even I myself was victim earlier on this year of hacking of my email systems, a number of different applications with confidential information, and particular even my financial information. And so you often have to be cognizant of the risk and take the necessary measures. And so as a government, one of the things that we are doing is to ensure that we do something about it, and as I said, create the necessary policy. But the key thing is to have Grenadians with the capacity and build that capacity to kind of roll out whatever preventive or security measures that we can for cyber security threats.
While on that, one of the most talkative issues now is the government's issuance of bonds on the security exchange market. And as a matter of fact, the month of financial awareness, which is this month, part of the theme is from savers to investors, because Grenadians save a lot of money and they're not investing. So firstly, we know that there's a cap on the bond issuance up to $5 million. But is it something you think the administration is going to keep coming forth with to raise capital, and also not only to raise capital, but the two-pronged approach to it that get Grenadians into investing into the country more?
Yes, and so the Ministry of Finance maybe next week would be best equipped to come and respond to that and speak to it. But a household bond is an initiative of this administration, and as you rightfully said, a lot of liquid cash is sitting in the banks. We need to find a way to get that liquid cash invested, so to speak, back into Grenada, so that it doesn't just sit there and, in a sense, goes up in bank fees, bank charges, etc. But it is invested with the intent and purpose, one, to bolster an individual's capacity in terms of diversifying their revenue streams and base, one, and two, also understand the importance of ensuring that we too need to find a way to always consistently generate economic activity, generate strong and solid financial basis. And so the household bond program, led by the Ministry of Finance, is to do just that, turn ordinary Grenadians into investors. So you have to open a brokerage account. I think Co-op Bank is the main entity in doing so. There are fees, they have their process, etc., that you would have to follow, and then you can register. I know there were some issues with the online portal. I cannot confirm at this moment whether or not it was resolved, but it's something that I would encourage every Grenadian, both home and abroad, to do and invest.
It's a good way to show your Grenadianism, invest in
Yes.
Grenada,
Yes.
and one of the things about it, as I had Miss Sylvester here this morning from Ariza, it is safe.
Yeah.
Right, it's one of the safe instruments that you can use for investment because it is covered under the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange.
Yeah.
So it's safe.
Yeah.
All right. Before we head to another commercial break, I am from the rural communities. Agriculture is our engine up there. What investment, what incentives are there? I know they had the distribution of the purebred animals that were brought in, and also I know a farmer up by my side has benefited from distribution of pineapple plants and so forth.
Yeah.
Although that in itself is creating some talk. What is government?
Yeah.
What are government's plans for agriculture?
Yeah. Well, so far, the overarching goal, and I spoke about some sectors that we are projectizing. As I mentioned, this is certainly a sector that we believe in. And so far, we've been doing a good job in terms of, one, certainly analyzing where we are at, and two, determining the key and critical policy reforms that might be required to take us to where we need to go. I think the key to the agricultural sector, apart from ensuring that we give farmers the input, is to ensure that there is market for the farmers to be able to sell, right, and sell. Grenada by itself, based on our relatively small population size, would never be able to consume the food all of the food that we produce, and therefore the benefit in agriculture is going to be how well we transition the present situation of just the backyard gardening type farming into a more commercialized one where we can exploit the export potential. And so when we talk about the a renovation to the Windward Fish Center in Carriacou, for example, it is about how we improve the capacity to, one, be able to export, but two, to organize the sector, because that's part of the challenge. I am one who believes that I always marvel when, hoteliers get so much concessions and benefits. But when you look to a farmer, you're telling them that, they can't get this, they can't get that, and so on. So they're always limited. And so my belief is that we need to give more inputs, yes, which we have been doing. But the key to this is the question of export potential and the markets, because that is where you are going to be able to, one, feed yourself, and then take the opportunities that might exist for export. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a good example. And agriculture is no longer just seen as this one-dimensional backyard gardening effort. It is something that we need to desperately invest in, which we have done. So I can tell you, students have went on to Guyana, and is currently, I think, about 10 more students or so left Grenada to travel to Guyana again, in addition to those that left earlier on this year, to go and study in Guyana the question of agriculture, right? This augurs well because it's going to help these same people come back with capacity that can revolutionize. And I can think of Mr. Sen Bernard as one example, who during the reign of the most honorable George Brizan was given some opportunities, went to study, completed, and came back, and is now contributing in many different ways and has done so over many different years. So this is important, and we need to build out more Grenadians with the capacity to do that. We are interested in ensuring that the tissue culture lab that was recently refurbished, that is outfitted and is functional and is going to bring the results. We are also investing in a hatchery where we are cooperating or collaborating or partnering with the Caribbean Agro to be able to improve our own local capacity to produce chicks. We believe this is going to go well. Again, the whole concept of it is to partner with the private sector, not to take it over from a government standpoint, but partner with the private sector so that both public and private sector, their interests can be intertwined and we can see a full-on benefit as relates to that. The other thing is that, yes, we have been giving out, distributing animals, resources, financial resources at that post-Hurricane Beryl. A number of farmers would have received. And part of the challenge with the cash transfers is that you may find that maybe even someone who may actually need it may fall under the radar and didn't get it. And so there must be other measures that you are engaged in to help bolster that question of their capacity to continue producing and to continue feeding the nation, but also for export. So that's our focus.
All right. The concern that we have is that we have a very high import bill for meat.
Yeah.
Primarily poultry and pork.
Right.
There is a school of thought that says if government can do something with the industry in such that it makes it more conducive for local production. The key point there is the cost of feed and availability of chicks and creating that market space.
Right. Which is key because you see what we suffer from in the Caribbean, ultimately we do not have the economies of scale to produce en masse, right? So we can't tap into some of the bigger markets, and feel confident that we could ship and transfer and export for life. And so it is sufficient to produce for the country and still have a glut in some goods. That is possible. But in some instances now, as it relates to poultry, by and large, the capacity to produce, you can't store now, when you produce these chicks, you can't keep them beyond certain times because then your own capacity to hold them will start to become so. In other words, take it like this. If you improve the ability to output, you also need to ensure that corresponding with that is the ability to get that output off your hand into a market so that you could then earn something back on it. Now, if you are doing this and you do not have the market for export, that is where the challenge is. And so we are working at this level, as I mentioned, the PPP that is currently ongoing with the new Grenada hatchery to be able to get it up to a standard, certainly that we can start looking at new markets to be able to export our food. Now, the challenge is the global uncertainties. And notwithstanding that we are doing this, there is absolutely no 100% reality that this is going to improve, let's say 30%, etc. So in a sense, when you engage in these policies, you would need some time to ensure that you are engaging in tremendous amount of research, that you are not reacting and going about it in a knee-jerk, piecemeal, haphazard way, but you are doing it in an organized, structured way. So the key in terms of improving that situation with local poultry farmers is to determine where the markets are going to come from so that when they collectively improve their capacity to supply, that in fact you do have the guaranteed markets that they could export and they are not operating at a loss, because it's one thing to get the inputs, but if you have to create the chicks and they die in and so on your hand, then it's a waste of time.
Well, I think in that case, for chicken, poultry products as well as even pork, the need for external markets might not be the main thing, the thrust. The thrust would be or should be creating that environment where the local chicken would be bought.
Right, but you see the cost. Remember, what we are discussing is that the reason why imports are so high is because it's cheaper to purchase these things externally. That's the whole issue. It's cheaper. And when they are produced locally, they have a higher cost. I mean, you have the energy, you have other factors which contribute to the cost of production. But the point is, cost of land, all these other things too could contribute. But the point is, what you may need or what you would have to rely on is the ability for the local farmers, yes, to produce, and so that we could start consuming. But you can only start talking about a reasonable cost rate when there is the element of guaranteed markets. Because in Grenada alone, the 110,000 of us may not be enough to consume the quantity and capacity that we could actually produce. We are not producing enough now simply because it is not lucrative enough to produce enough, and they would not be able to sustain businesses. Most poultry farmers, if you do the investigation, have start, and they always go through these cyclical phases of start, stop, maybe some instances grow and taper out. And so, you have that issue to deal with, the cost of feed, the cost of other things, which we do not control locally as well. So it is not just a simple conversation. This is why I said that we're starting with the hatchery with the plan or intent to build out a strategy and cooperation among private and public sector to be able to improve the situation with our poultry farmers.
Folks, this is To The Point, speaking with Honorable Ron Redhead, Public Relations Officer for the NDC and also Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. George Northeast. We take a commercial break. We'll be back after this, and then we'll open the lines in the segment because, folks, it's 13 minutes away from 10 o'clock.
The Ministry of Agriculture is inviting all of Grenada to join in the national observance of World Food Day 2025, guided by the theme Hand in Hand for Better Food and a Better Future. Our national celebrations will run from October 13th, culminating with the grand exhibition at the Old Trafford Playing Field, Tantine, on Friday, October 17th, 2025. Let us all unite to make this year's event the very best, connecting householders, farmers, agricultural partners, schools, and community groups. International World Food Day observance, October 16th. National World Food Day celebrations, October 13th to the 17th. Be a part of Grenada's food security drive.
Like a freestyle, the life blood flowing mile by mile. It's legacy, a beat that don't stop like Bob Marley said. One love on top, the sewage water out of sight, but it's always wrong, don't lose the light. From factories and wells so deep, cut off mangroves and fish they weep. Grey water for the garden, keep it green. Save the cash and the earth gets clean. We use the water with a mindful mind. It's out of sight but never far behind. In nature, the answers always flow. Like water running pure, the cycle grows. It renews itself, same drop, same beat. It's all good, man, you got the heat. Water flow. No clean water, no vibes we grow. Protect our water, protect our future.
Time to go.
back, viewers and listeners, to the point this morning. Of course, I'm joined by MP Ron Redhead. And, of course, at this time, we are opening the lines where you can raise your concerns or make any comments. But, of course, you know the basic rules. We ought to be respectable and brief as possible. And let's keep it real. So let's go straight to the telephone line right away. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Innocent, good morning.
Welcome to the program.
It's Tanti here, and I'd like to speak to Mr. Ron about my home where I live, and I have some problem here. If you could come and give me a visit, and you will come around and see with Tanti. You know Tanti, I know at Tempe. Mr. Redhead, talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, caller. Thank you.
All right, Tanti, thank you. I'll come and have a look. I'm scheduled to be at a walkabout. This interview was short notice for me, so I do apologize.
Okay.
But I will look into it.
All right, back to the telephone line. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Good morning, Innocent and Mr. Redhead.
Welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. We're talking about chicken, pigs, and other things. What we need food to, like yams. Yams is going out. We can't get yams to buy anymore. We used to have those kind of yams they call the picker yam. We have a little pick on it. They have the yellow one and they have the white one. The white one, you can just pick it out and you're making a second one. But the yellow one, you have to cut it and you only one you're making for the year. You can get another plant from it. But the white one, when you pick it out from the thing and you just bury it back, you're making another one so you could get plant for it. Now you cannot see that anymore. You cannot see no leaves one. You cannot see nothing. Only the bush you say no. And it's not enough. We need some more food. We need people planting yams. You understand? We need to bring in those plants anymore. Don't bring pineapple alone because pineapple, you can't eat pineapple. Right? We could use it for something else. But we need those yams. We need to bring back all those quality yams. Where are we getting it? Mexico and those places have those yams. You know, Mauritius will have a lot of those kind of yams. No, we don't see that anymore. So, Mr. Redhead, please, we need yams. Try to get some plants for us so we could plant again because it's very important, more food for us.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. No, we need yams.
We need more than yams, and so the caller is absolutely correct. But I'm saying the pineapple is a start. Remember, now if you were to just select every good carrot, yam, etc., to say that we have to start mass producing and so on, you would never have any food, and I will tell you why. Because in Grenada, part of the challenge with farming, in my humble opinion, it is not organized sufficiently. In other words, St. David could be the mecca for producing bell peppers, but St. George could be the mecca for producing carrot. It does not stop a farmer from having bell peppers in St. George and vice versa. The point about it is we need to collaborate and coordinate so that St. David would be the main producer of the bell peppers, and the St. David Bell Peppers Farmers Association organization, what have you, is going to be able to generate sufficient profits, etc., to be able to get it on a consistent basis for local consumption, and also talking about export, which was mentioned earlier on. So we have to get to the point where we organize farming, because this is about how we eat. If you just, every month, you're just buying anyhow grocery and so on, you're never going to have enough. You're probably not even going to be able to cook a decent meal because you don't know what you're buying. You don't know if you buy chicken this week, that fish, you're not organized. So you have to be organized. That would be my call.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have a caller via the WhatsApp platform. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Innocent, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning, sir.
First of all, I want to say I've been listening to Mr. Redhead and the conversation, and for some reason it seems that he continues to give his opinion about a lot of stuff that's going on in Grenada. The oil and gas, he's a very, very, very eloquent speaker. And I think that's what we as voters are running away from these days. We want to know really how involved are you in the government of Grenada, and to be making those statements. Where are the real proof or real statistics? You are giving them out of your head, I guess, to make your party look very, very good. And if you're looking for re-election, with all the lies that are being peddled in the public domain at this time, I think this is the time for you to clean up your act and stop a lot of the divisive politicking. I would have heard you said something about making the right in the wrongs, and you failed to even mention what were the wrongs, because I don't see any difference that your government is making, unlike what you're trying to portray to the Grenadian public. I am very much disappointed in the manner in which you try to bring politics. If you're trying to portray what your party is doing, keep on that part, and don't go down to the part where you're trying to small talk or give the people an impression. We're not for impression right now. We want to know what you all are doing, because we are at a crossroads right now, as we know, with tariff and all the stuff that's going on. And as it relates to the cost of living in Grenada, I would like to know, what is your government doing in that regards? Because so many persons are crying out, for heaven's sake. They are crying out, for God's sake, for help as related to that. Cost of living is killing our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caller.
Yeah, Caller, thanks very much. So, Caller, let me just be frank with you, because I think, honestly, I disagree with your rationale. Now, let me say this. When I say we wrote the wrongs, I am very specific. In the health sector, at the hospital, Gren Case was hiring workers to work at the general hospital without the necessary quality training and consistent benefits that medical workers would get. I am saying that we are going to change that, and these are coming out of assessments. Something as simple as a battery in a fire detector, a smoke detector in the general hospital, has not been changed for 11 years, my brother. So I'm saying these are concerns. That is a wrong that we are righting. It has nothing to do with politics. It's a situation where the opposition was in government for a tremendous amount of years, and some of these problems was very prevalent under their watch, and now we came in a short notice and we have to fix it. So I'm saying to you that it is being worked on. As it relates to the question of cost of living, now what you have is food inflation. The rate of national inflation in Grenada is either at a slow rising rate or is low. And you can check that out. The data exists. You can check the Ministry of Finance for it. Just as I am getting it, you can get it from ECCB or any other Caribbean or regional institution that deals with the question of data statistics on economic situations, whether it be Grenada or the Caribbean region. Now, when it comes to the specific policies, we have engaged and embarked on a significant amount of work as it relates to electricity. So, for example, if you are a low-end user, your bill rate is going to be tremendously low. What this specific policy is designed to do, notwithstanding the external influence of the increase in oil prices, what this is designed to do is to have you, the house owner, manage your consumption of electricity. So it is one thing to say the government needs to do something, but when you go home, your refrigerator open, your microwave running, you have heater, your television running, and so on, you have to have some skin in the game too, Caller. So, I mean, to make it out as if, well, the government deliberately increasing this and increasing that, that's not the case. And I'm saying this issue of inflation is really a food inflation issue. It is caused by tariffs, among other global policy shifts, but it is something that is out of our control. This is why what we are doing is to improve our capacity to expand our food production, so that we can ultimately reduce the costs and the dependence on the inputs. But it cannot be that we're going to just produce for here alone. We have to work towards exporting. So if you ask me, I think I was very clear and frank in my deliberation here. And if you need any more further information, you could come down to the town hall meeting tomorrow, God's will. You'll hear about the oil and gas sector. We're working to build that out and continue following the government of Grenada, i.e. the National Democratic Congress administration.
All right, we've got another caller, and it's going to be our final call. We've exhausted the time already, but that caller has been waiting for quite a while. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Innocent. Good morning, family. What's going on?
Welcome. Get straight to the point because we're out of time.
All right. I've been listening to you, Ron, and then first I want to congratulate you for the many achievements that you're doing in your constituency. And then are very happy to see the amount of achievement that this government been making in a short time. And one of the highlight of a program yesterday I was watching with DM and then the education minister, and he was talking about like with the laptop. I don't know if you had mentioned because I joined late and then to know that the laptop will be continuing the children from the Farm 1 and the Farm 2, and even though they advance to Farm 3, Farm 4, they'll be keeping the laptop. So I just want to encourage you. And the last caller that called, Rando, pay him no mind. That's an NNP surrogates. Thank you, caller. Somebody would say you're an NDC surrogate too, so you got to be careful and balanced. Minister Redhead, PRO, we've got to part. What would you like to share with the public as we leave?
Yeah. So again, let me just apologize. This interview was short notice on my part, but we certainly are up to the task always. We love to speak about what is happening in Grenada, both home and how it influences our Grenadians living abroad. We want to continue on. We are going to have the town hall meeting tomorrow, God's will, at the Trade Center. The Technical Working Group on Oil and Gas, headed by Grenadian attorney Mr. Nazim Buck, is going to make a presentation among other government ministers making presentations on what is going on and happening in Grenada. So tune in.
All right. Mr. Honorable Redhead, thank you for joining us this morning, even if it was at short notice. And I do appreciate your presence here, and we look forward to another engagement in the not too distant future. On Wednesdays, it's Government's Day or NDC Day, so we look forward to another engagement from your institution. Folks, that's it for To The Point this morning. Thank you for being a part one way or the other, whether you called or didn't get through or what. Just your presence, your audience. Thank you very much. That's it. Bye-bye.